Hi there, welcome back. How are you feeling today? So, someone placed a beautiful comment on one of my videos, I forget which one. And at the time, I was a bit irritated. You know, my ego steps in and my humanness is like, excuse me. But then this morning, so much information was coming up from these two words. So what happened was they posted up something about another author and her book on my channel. And I was like, hello, author, why are you posting up other people's books, on my channel? But the book has two words in it. Let them. And in the past few days, this is what has been coming up so much in my awareness. And I realized that was meant to be there, that comment. Now, the book is by Mel Robbins, a well-established author that's already, being represented by traditional publishers and all the rest of it. She doesn't need extra advertising on my channel. But the words let them was what kept coming through since I saw that. That's all that stood out from that comment. Once I got past my irritability of, people are going to do strange things, weird things. But at the same time, I always think, well, this is there to serve me in some way. If my ego is stepping in, there's something that's unresolved there. There's the attitude of lack and scarcity that comes in because there's more than enough in the world for everyone, But those two words I found were so sacred. Let them. Let me know in the comments what the words let them means to you before I go into interpreting here. Let them. The first thing that came to mind was my parents, because there's been a lot coming up lately around them, and so much beautiful information has been shared by the beautiful people in this community, because it is a community that's being formed here with all the beautiful wisdom that gets shared all the time by the people that are here. Let them. So, let them. If your parents are angry with you and they don't want to speak to you, let them be angry. If your children are offended and they don't want to speak to you, let them be offended. Let them be angry. Allow them to have their experience. It is when we stop to judge that it's right or wrong, that it's good or bad, or we take it on as something personal on us. We take it on as a personal attack. Our children aren't talking to us. We've done something wrong. We've upset them. We have to fix it. We have to make it right. But what if you don't? What if you don't have to do anything but allow them to have this experience? If you've gone in and you've apologized, they've come to you and they've said, blah, 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 blah. This is what I'm upset, I'm offended over this. Or not. Because while I was overseas with my parents, they just kept throwing things in my face that they were offended about. So I was like, well, where does this end? And it's like a bottomless pit. What is the real reason that we're offended? And when I got to the bottom of that, I realized, wow, it had nothing to do with me. Or my beautiful aunts and uncles that they've been offended with over the years. Or the other string of people that they've decided they're not talking to that aren't family, But all of a sudden, now we're offended, we're not talking to them. The root of this unforgiveness had nothing to do with any of us. Nothing to do with any of us. So, Let them. If you ask them why they're offended, why they're upset, and in that moment you can apologize from your heart. It was never your intention. In your human experience, while you're unconscious, you're not awake, perhaps you did things. Perhaps they're right to be upset in their experience. You can apologize. That's all you can do from your heart. But what if they don't want to accept that apology? The next step is you can forgive yourself. Okay, I was doing the best that I could do with the information that I had at the time. I was unconscious. I wasn't awake. I was reacting and I was behaving accordingly. I was living out my human experience, and maybe at the time, one of those things was that I needed to see that I wasn't good enough in some way. This was the experience I was having because I was gathering information about that. And in not being good enough, I behaved in a certain way. I reacted in a certain way. I said things. In this beautiful video, there's 2 quotes. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Always remember that when you are awake. What you do to others, you do to yourself. What you do for others, you do for yourself. But there's also a second quote that keeps coming up lately from the Bible that is just priceless. And it was when Jesus was on the cross and he looked up at God and he said, "Forgive them, for they know not what they do." Forgive them, for they know not what they do. So, understanding that our parents have a human experience that they are here to complete for their soul. Understanding that your children have a human experience that they came here to complete for their soul. Understanding that not all of us are here to awaken. Not all of us are here to remember that we are spirit in human form. Most of us are not here for that. Now that we have this knowledge, let them be angry. Let them experience what they came to experience. Allow them. Know in your heart that you have a role to play. You have a role to play for your parents. You have a role to play for your children. You have a role to play for your partner, whatever that is. Know that that role is perfect for all of them, for your parents, for your children, for your partner. All of it is perfect just as it is. So let them be angry without judgment. Let them feel that they're not good enough in some way. Let them be who they came here to be. You know, it reminds me, for the longest time, I always thought when I have a daughter, as soon as she's able to understand, I'm going to start talking to her about women and getting periods and knowing all about this. It's natural. It's what we go through. Because when I was 12 and I got mine for the first time, I thought I was dying. And I was crying in the bathroom and I wouldn't come out because I was bleeding from a place that you're not supposed to have blood coming out of that spot. And the year before, I'd had my appendix taken out. And so I assumed oh, something's gone wrong with this operation and now I'm dying. And that to me was such a traumatic experience in my childhood, that no one sat me down and told me that this was going to happen to me. I found that so traumatic. And then just the way it was dealt with, you know, my mum just threw a pad at me and said, oh, look, this is going to happen to you every month. Just deal with it. Here's a packet of pads. Didn't even show me how to use them. You know, was so embarrassed about the whole topic. Didn't even want to talk about it. And at the time we were overseas. We were visiting a family in South America for the first time. I'd never met them before. And on this trip, I ended up getting my periods. And so most of what I learnt was from my cousins that were older than me at the time. They talked me through it. But neither of my parents sat me down, or even my aunt. They were all too embarrassed to talk about it. So I always swore, as soon as I have my daughter, if I have a daughter, that she would know about this early on. That this would be something normal, that we would talk about it all the time. It would be natural, you know, and I would show her, which I did. You know, as she was getting to the age of 10, I started showing her the pads. I started showing her how to use them, you know, all about them. At school here now, they do teach you. It was when she was 10, year 4, year 5, year 4. Trying to think what year, but anyway, year 4 and year 6 I think are the 2 years where they go through it. And even at school now, they give them this pack with all these different pads in it, you know, different sizes, because they're all different size girls. And I thought that was wonderful, you know, that they go through that now at school so that girls don't have to go through that anymore. But what I found curious was when my daughter turned 12, she came to me and she said, Mum, I'm scared. And I said to her, what of, darling? What's wrong? And she said, this thing with the periods. She said, how much blood comes out? She started asking me all these questions, you know, about the periods. And in that moment, I realized, I thought, oh, we're scared no matter what, whether we have the information or we don't have the information. It's an experience we're meant to go through. Because until you get your periods for the first time and it becomes a habit that you get it every month, you still don't know what it is to have periods. Same as childbirth. You know, your mum, your grandma, everyone can tell you all about it. They can tell you all about childbirth. But until you go through it, you don't know what it is to go through it. You don't know how excruciating that pain is. There are certain things in life that you must experience, with or without the information. It doesn't take away that you're going to be afraid either way. So let them. If they're going to be afraid, let them be afraid. They'll figure it out. It's what they came to experience. Many things we don't, especially about our parents, many things we don't figure out until we are parents and we're going through it. We don't understand it. Many things. Something else I had to learn, and that was very difficult for me, because as a parent, I always thought we were there to protect our children from getting hurt. I didn't want to see my daughter upset or crying or hurt. They're the last things that a parent wants for their child. Naturally. I don't know if it's conditioning or if it's just a natural thing. When my daughter went into year 3, she got separated from her best friend, and she would go in every day crying that she got separated, and now her best friend was going to make friends with someone else in her class, and didn't want to be her friend anymore. Now, why did my daughter have this fear? Because when she finished kindergarten and went into year 1, this was exactly what happened to her. She was separated from her best friend. And this best friend made other friends in his classroom. And when they'd go out at recess and lunchtime, he wouldn't talk to my daughter. He ignored her. And for most of year one, I remember her coming home upset. Not crying, but upset that her friend didn't want to be friends with her anymore. Then at the end of year one, she made friends with this friend. They became best friends and spent all of year two together with this beautiful girl. Then they went into year three and they got separated. And she assumed, my daughter instantly assumed, oh, it's happening again. My best friend is going to go off and make friends with someone else and she's going to completely ignore me. And she would go to school crying every morning. And so I would talk her through it, that just because it happened before in kindy going to year one doesn't mean that it will happen again. And it didn't, because this girl was she was in love with my daughter as much as my daughter was in love with her. Like the two of them were two peas in a pod, and they were, they just loved being together. Their personalities gelled, they got on really well, and they just loved being with each other. So I'm sure that her friend was probably thinking the same thing. Oh, are you going to ditch me now that we're in separate classes? So I would talk to my daughter about this in the mornings, because I didn't like seeing her crying every morning going to school. It broke my heart. And I thought, what do I do? Do we change schools? Do I send her somewhere else? All these things were going through my mind, trying to fix the problem, And so I had to keep reminding her, just because it happened before, they're older now. And that friend was younger. As they get older, they're different. Just because it happened before doesn't mean it's going to happen again. We can't be expecting that it's going to keep happening over and over and over just because it's happened. That is what it is to be in the present moment. It's just to be present with what's happening. Not with, what's happened and what's going to happen. If it happens again, then it's meant to happen again. But it turns out that they were best friends all through year three and year four. They were friends for quite a long time before they started choosing other friends. That friend stuck because that friend loved her as much as she loved that friend, and she didn't want to lose her either. But somewhere in there, I think it was 6 weeks in of watching her cry, and she cried for quite a few months, the poor teacher, every morning with her crying and having to soothe her and all the rest. We had the most wonderful teacher that year. But I think 6 weeks in, I thought to myself, wow, you know what? Not every experience I had at school was fun, was joyful, was playful. I had moments like that. I had a whole year going to school crying at Catholic school because I just didn't like what they were teaching us there about the devil. I was terrified. I didn't want to go back. But for the most part, my childhood, I was happy. I had a joyful childhood. I loved my childhood. But that was part of my childhood, that year. And I thought to myself, she needs to have her own experiences. She needs to learn her own lessons. I can't protect her from that. I can't change what she's meant to experience, what she's meant to learn. I have to allow her to have her experiences without judgment, without judging that it's right or wrong. Just allowing. This is what she's meant to go through. This is what let them means to me. Allowing those that we love to have their experiences without judgment. When we start to judge, we need to look at ourselves. Because there is something in us that we're not accepting, we're not forgiving as part of that relationship. So like I said before, if you feel you need to apologize, apologize to that person. If they're not willing to let that go, or if things don't change, they're still angry, they're still offended, they're still upset, whatever it is they're going through, then forgive yourself for your unconsciousness and understand that they're meant to go through that. That's the experience they came to have, and that you played your role beautifully for them, and you're still playing your role beautifully for them. This is unconditional love, allowing others their experience without judgment. All right, my beautiful beings, I love you guys so much. So let them allow. I love you guys. Remember to click like and subscribe so you don't miss any of the messages coming through. I was just waiting to see if there was anything else to come through, but I think we covered it pretty well. Let me know what the words "let them" mean for you. Let them. Bye for now.